think we'll go ahead and get started, and other folks can filter in. So hi everyone. Good to see everyone's faces after it's been a little while. So we have 2 hours allocated for the meeting today. I think with any luck, we can probably wrap it up sooner than that, but we wanted to leave some extra time given that we canceled the normal July meeting and we kind of have a combined meeting here. And we want to get a budget approved and we have some bigger discussion items. So we have 2 full hours if we need it. Hopefully you got the materials that I sent around last week for review. I can pull those up on my screen as needed as we go through. But for now, I'd like to start with a motion to approve the minutes from the June 17th Board of Directors meeting.
I'd make that motion to approve the minutes.
Thanks, Eric. Can I get a second?
I'll second this, Jeff.
Thanks, Jeff. All in favor, say aye.
Aye.
Aye. Aye.
All opposed,
Aye.
all opposed, same sign. Okay, meeting minutes are approved. So first up on the agenda, if we have Jeff Hedstrom, are you on yet? Yes, good to see you, Jeff. So first up, hopefully you saw the excellent breakdown and the summary of the proposed GeoCon registration and workshop rates that Jeff sent around. So him and Michelle worked really hard on that. So I budgeted some time here to discuss those, but Jeff, I'll let you, if you want to add to anything that you sent around or add a little color, I'll let you jump in now.
Yeah, so I'll probably provide a little bit of context, just because I've been on the board 3 different times, and many of you have also been around for a while too. So we essentially had not had a rate increase since 2016, and that was when we still had when it was still called the Intermountain GIS Conference, and that's when we had it every other year. So this was prior to us hiring Full Scope or really, it was a fully volunteer-led planning effort at that point. So, given that, it was one factor. So it's been almost 10 years. Given all the other factors, inflation, COVID, we've seen a pretty significant price hike in catering, facility costs as well. Facility costs kind of depend year to year, depending on the contract and the hotel that we are contracting with. So like in Whitefish, for example, we actually get a lower facility rate if we meet a catering cost or a food cost. Helena was not like that. So we paid the $12,000 freight on that, regardless of what we spent on food. And so, given all this, and prior to COVID, we've seen probably an influx of facility fees, but definitely not to the 12,000 degree. And then with the catering costs being north of 23,000, I think was the Helena one, and that's actually minus a meal that we used to provide. We used to provide the Wednesday or the Thursday lunch. So you're probably looking at, probably 30, probably closer to 30,000 if we'd still provided the same amount of stuff. But we certainly just can't with the current rates. We've never been in that luxury just because of the higher increase in the food costs. So and then as you can see on your screen, and all of you have seen this, we have proposed a $25 fee increase. Yeah, $25. That's what it is, Michelle, right? 25?
Yeah, it's 25 from that base member rate. I think a couple of the other ones are, we had discussed making the late registration fee a little bit stiffer. So
Yeah, so as you can see too, there's kind of a third tier added to this. There's kind of a intermediate rates. So that'd be kind of your old late registration, but then we're kind of adding a third layer on top of that, which kind of provides a stiffer penalty. If you come in, I think it's what, basically
A couple, 2 weeks.
yeah, about 2 weeks prior to the conference, just because there's just a lot involved in that, and a lot of times you're not even guaranteed swag too. It just depends on how much we ordered. So and I think prior to the difference was like $50 for the late registration versus the early bird. But given that we've raised membership rates, that's basically the cost of a membership now. So really there was really no penalty to folks. They just basically would have to become a member, and you basically get kind of the grandfather discount anyway if you were a non-member. So and then I think that's basically it. Oh, and then workshops we increased $15. So that would essentially just be like the MAGIP's cut. So like David's, for example, it'd be 15 on top. It'd be 95 on top of what he charges, or Eric Pimpler or any of those other folks. So that's essentially, so those would apply to the volunteer instructor-led workshops, as well as the paid instructor ones. This essentially is MAGIP's cut as it reflects to those. That's basically, I think that's all I had.
Thanks, Jeff. I think we can open the floor for additional discussion. Are there questions about how we landed on these numbers? Any confusion, anything like that?
I think this is awesome. All I want to say is thank you for the really thoughtful review, and also Jeff for giving that context on how you guys arrived at these numbers. I really appreciate it. I think it's reasonable. Thank you.
Yeah, and unfortunately, each venue is significantly different. So it's not about like, digging in the numbers, based on this, and this, the cost breakdown increases by this much. I mean, it literally can increase, I think I had a per person breakdown, but it could probably increase, $25 for one, might only increase like 10 or 15 for for others. I mean, I think I did a comparison of the two Helena conferences, or maybe it was I think it was the two Helena conferences, and I think there was like a $60 increase per person. So certainly this could be more, but we've scaled back some of our expenses, so taking that into account as well.
Before we move forward to considering a motion and voting to approve of these, is there any hesitancy? Anyone want to voice any concerns about the proposed increases?
Yeah, I'm gonna throw a couple things out here. I don't, this is Mike, by the way. Just because we haven't done it since 2016, to me, that doesn't mean nothing. I would prefer to keep it as is. I know inflation and stuff, but yet every time we have a conference, we've been in the plus. We've made money. I guess I'd like to have something describing, now that we're raising these prices more, where is I'm assuming then that we're gonna get additional money then, or we're gonna have additional money in the plus. And where are we gonna go with that money, or where is that money gonna go? Usually, we don't have any, I mean, it just goes into the bank or whatever. I'd like to see if we can use it or something. But again, that'd be hard to track because it's so facility dependent.
And we do have coming up, thanks, Mike. We do have coming up on the agenda time to discuss the impact this would have to our budget moving forward. And Nick's also going to just return to the conversation we had in June about potential investment options for surplus funds on a year-to-year basis and moving forward. So we will get
Jackson, you're frozen.
I was gonna say, did we just lose Jackson?
I didn't know if I was the only one frozen or not.
Me too. I was like, is it just me?
Um,
At least he's not in a horribly awkward frozen spot on his video. Every time that happens to me, I have like dinosaur raptor hands.
Can you still hear
Let's
me or
see.
no?
Oh,
Oh,
yeah,
there you
we can
are.
hear you now.
you were
Okay.
frozen for quite a while.
Okay. I turned my video off, probably just an unstable connection. What was the last thing you heard me say?
That
Nick's
Nate's
gonna
going to join the
talk.
conversation. Yeah.
He's going to talk about investment options for surplus funds.
Oh, right. So we do have time allocated today to chat, to address both those things that Mike brought up. But just on the subject of these rate increases specifically, is there any other questions or discussion to be had?
Yeah, well, I guess I'll add one more thing to that. I think we increased the allocation to our member support in terms
We
of
did.
so that's basically kind of where the money is going. I think we actually have to probably cut some of that if we don't do this. So that's kind of the impact, to not skip ahead, but I think we were looking at a budget deficit if we don't do and that's not necessarily the sole reason to do this, but like these increases just give us a little bit more flexibility of money that we can essentially give back to our members year to year, as well as to invest.
I also will just reiterate what Michelle brought up in our June meeting, that if we all of a sudden don't get any sponsors because USGS didn't have money or whatever, if all of our sponsors went away, that we would be in the negative on the conference. The sponsorships are what is giving us that surplus money, and so we can't really count on those. We need to have enough revenue to operate and run the conference, assuming we get no sponsorships. But I mean, we hope we get tons, but I think that was kind of something that really made an impact in my mind, that yeah, we do need to be able to fund our conference based on the registration and membership fees alone.
Yeah, and I do have a question about if we increase the fees. Jeff had made a comment that there were things that we had cut out that we used to provide, and I think that was one of the meals. And is the idea that if we increase these membership dues or fees for the conference, that we would be able to provide those again? Is that the idea, Jeff? Or it sounds like it's already spent in other places.
I think that's probably unknown, but sometimes that depends on where we're at. I mean, I think probably, and Michelle, you can probably correct me if I'm wrong. I think it was Missoula when it might have been Missoula or Butte was the first time we didn't offer that Wednesday or that Thursday lunch. And that's because of the increase catering costs. And so I think to come out projectedly even or ahead, I think that decision had to be made at that point to essentially cut something from the existing agenda.
Yeah, you're right, Jeff. I think it was we saw it as a way to save some money on the budget and come out in the black. And then I think we just got a lot of feedback from attendees that they appreciated having a lunch on their own to go explore, and especially if it was within walking distance of places. So I think it is a case by case basis, but I do think it is twofold. I think it helps the budget, and I also think that people appreciate having the free time at lunch.
Yeah, well, and given that it's in Whitefish too, there's just so much for folks to explore downtown, and so given that that's on the horizon, I don't see that decision being made for 2026, just because we're gonna still want to allot for that hour and a half, 2 hours for folks to go downtown.
Yeah, I don't disagree that we need to raise the fees. I just wonder if this is, I don't want to use the word aggressive, but I just wonder if it's enough, given how long it's been since we've done any kind of fee increase.
I think we talked about that, Jeff and I, when we were looking at this, and I think that's why for the kind of one of the member benefits, that's why we left that increase at $25. Some of the other ones we did increase more, like the non-members, we did increase a little bit more. But I think as a member, it just is a benefit to get a really good rate on the conference. So I think $25 is reasonable and not too is not going to be too shocking to folks.
Yeah, I would agree with that, and that's really well thought out. I guess the other question that I had, and maybe Michelle, this is you. Do we know how many people signed up late at
Not
like
very
the
many.
last conference? Okay,
Yeah,
so
not
not
very
a
many. So
significant amount.
no, and so Jeff and I talked about for that, adding that intermediate rate, I think really incentivizes people to get registered. And I can't imagine that we would anticipate, and I think if you look at our breakdown on the numbers, we just didn't anticipate very many people coming in at that late rate, which is only 2 weeks out from the conference. And that's going to sting a little. Those prices are pretty high. So I feel like it really is going to incentivize people to get registered in a reasonable amount of time. Because their intermediate rate isn't horrible either, but you'll see that non-member rate went from 305 to 350. So that's a little bit more than a $25 jump, but we did keep it lower for the members, just so that's added value to be a member.
I just have one more question, and this goes to the workshop rates. I'm not sure that I understand. Sorry, it was on the workshop rates originally. There it is. Okay. So am I understanding that this half day $95 is in addition to what the instructor-led classes? So for instance, David House teaches a course and he charges a rate. Do we charge $95 on top of that? Is that correct?
Yes.
Correct. Mm-hmm.
Okay, so the $95, if somebody signs up for a workshop, for a half-day workshop, $95 goes into the MAGIP coffers.
Correct. Yes.
Oh, that's cool. And that's increased by $15, and then on both of them,
Because
$15.
I mean, I guess to the contrary, if we don't add anything, essentially it's a negative in the budget. Because every single penny would go to David or Eric or Kara. And there's nothing left to essentially pay for the room, pay for the break food and all that. So yep.
Right. And there is a cost of doing business, and we have
Yes.
to budget for that. Is that enough based on the room costs? Do we have any ideas?
Yeah, I mean that depends year to year, but yes, that should be enough. I think we looked at the last 2 years of numbers. Usually the higher number workshops outweigh the smaller ones. So like the ones that we only get like 2 or 3 or 4, sometimes we're not. There's actually you're kind of in the red. But those other ones that pick up the slack that get like 16, 17, that usually generates enough money to essentially kind of pick up any losses from other workshops. And and this year was actually kind of an anomaly. I think we offered 5 or 6 more workshops than we ever have. So and I think at one point we had 6 workshops going on at one time. So that's not going to be the case every year. So
Yeah, and I think like Jeff said, we looked at the last 2 years, and I think there were only maybe 2 workshops from each year that did come out in the red, but then all the other workshops came out in the black, which then subsidized the other 2, and then there was still a profit made overall.
Great. Thanks for fielding those questions, Jeff and Michelle. Any other remaining questions before we move forward with a motion? Okay, hearing nothing, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the Big Sky GeoCon proposed registration and workshop rate increases as presented to the board.
I will move to propose that we increase these registration and workshop rates.
I'll
Thank you,
second
Helen.
it.
Thank you. I think that was Gail. Thank you, Gail. Okay, all those in favor say aye.
Aye.
I
Aye.
All opposed, same sign. Okay. Motion's passed. And thanks again, Jeff and Michelle, for your work on that. Awesome.
Thank you
I'm
for
gonna
the
flip over.
thank you for the questions, everyone.
Yeah, I'm gonna flip over to the agenda. Somebody flag me if I cut out again. I think my connection stabilized, but okay, so with those increases approved, getting back to Mike's comment, this is going to have an effect on the budget. So at our June meeting, we discussed a number of potential changes to the annual operating budget, including some increases in several categories. So I'm going to just go to the budget spreadsheet. This is also in the email I sent if you'd like to open it on your own computer and follow along. And then Nick, I'll ask you if you're comfortable to just kind of walk us through some of those proposed increases from the last meeting and how the increased GeoCon rates would affect the bottom line. And I can kind of scroll around on the budget and highlight stuff you're talking about, Nick, if that works for you.
Yeah, sounds good. I've got a copy of the proposed budget from our last meeting on my screen. So I guess just looking at registration, we had 40,000 proposed the other month, and now that is up to 44, 45 with the increased rates. I don't see a change in that sponsorship one, and then just a $1,000 increase on the workshops. There, we are at 32. And then I think other items that came up.
Wait a minute. Go back up. Whoever's controlling the budget. So in the notes, it says the estimate is 49. And why is it only say 44?
So that what I was explaining to Jackson earlier is if the 175 people that we have estimated to attend were all to pay, it would be 49,055. But we have to take into account all the comp registrations that come along with sponsorships and those types of things. So those have to be backed out. And so that's an estimate of how many comp registrations we would have. So the actual revenue being received would be the 44,495.
Okay, thank you.
Yeah, it's a little confusing.
Hence my question.
Yeah, so that with those changes, we were in the red about $4,000, and now we're in the green by 1,300.
And this is, just to add a little bit of context, this is accounting for the increases that were proposed at our last meeting. So those are, I think they should all be highlighted in yellow, right, Nick? Things that we discussed increasing
Right.
from 2025. So that's things like conference swag going up from 2,000 to 3,000, lodging facility rental costs, or that line item going up, along with food for board meetings, member support, like we just mentioned, pretty significant increase there. A small increase in student and scholarship awardee money for travel. And then the last two would be a new line item created for general swag, which we separated out from GeoCon swag and allocated $2,000 for swag there throughout the year. And then finally, an increase for GIS meetups, which includes kind of standard or regular meetups throughout the year, and then the GeoCon Tuesday meetup that occurs alongside the conference.
So
Yeah, and then go ahead.
I'm sorry, could I ask, on line 67, the member support versus the meetups? Sorry, I could probably read that if I got really close. Conference registration workshop. Membership request for assistance. So why would we have memberships request for assistance separate from membership request for GIS meetups? Is that specifically for assistance to go to the conference? Workshop and travel costs. I got it. Okay.
Yeah.
Is this because of the conversation about students?
No, Gail, this is sort of our attempt. You know, we talk about scholarships and grants. We talk about that
I
being
got
for
it.
students, but we're also suggesting that there's an opportunity for members to receive some of this benefit.
I got it. Thank you. I was just confused about the meetup on there because I was trying to figure out why we had separated it. I totally remember the conversation now. Thank you, Rob.
Yeah, you bet.
Didn't we say that we were gonna raise the 2 scholarships as well? Or it looks like we did raise them by 500.
We did. Sorry, those should have been highlighted as well.
Yeah, okay.
Any questions about that? Anything that we missed on the increases, Nick?
No, not that I'm aware of. As far as 2025 actuals, there was a check that went through for the, I think, Belgrade High School under scholarships. That was 1,500, and then I added in the May and June full scope invoices as well. If you actually scroll up, Jackson, to the full scope professional services. So yeah, I came out to 18,000, and I'm unsure if maybe the June invoice was supposed to go into the 2026 actuals. It's like roughly the amount of a monthly invoice on that. So we're over by like 1,600.
Yeah, I mean, June should go into 25. Maybe we can coordinate with Michelle to figure out what the discrepancy is there.
Yeah, I might reach out to Nate too. I was kind of struggling to figure out where he left off and all that. So, but just wanted to point that out.
Michelle, do you have any thoughts off the top of your head? I mean, we can return to this after the meeting if we need to, but
You know, I don't have access to the MAGIP bank accounts. I'm not really sure how things were coded there.
okay, yeah, we can resolve that.
Cool.
After the meeting. The only other two that I kind of wanted to bring up. So as Nick said, this takes us to a projected surplus for the year of just shy of $1,400. I think I'm really happy with the way we've been able to increase some of these line items for our scholarships. Thank you, Rob, for advocating for that. Member support. This seems like we're wisely using the extra funds. The only two that I think might still be a little shy, and this bleeds over into the next agenda item, which is to discuss the strategic planning meetup for this year. So for lodging and facility rental, row 53 if you're on your own computer, and then food, which is for in-person meetings for strategic planning on our in-person board meetings. The next row, those, so we're going forward with Fairmont for strategic planning. So it looks like we do have enough right now budgeted for the rooms for just the one night for everyone. And then we have the meeting room reserved as well for the 2 days. However, that leaves us no buffer for if we do need to pay for space for the January in-person board meeting, which I know we do have options that we could probably get something free. But I'm not sure what we paid last year. Maybe someone could fill me in for the Helena room, but that leaves no buffer for that. And then if there's anyone that wanted to come up a day early to Anaconda, those that are traveling a longer distance, we wanted to potentially have some funds there so that MAGIP could pay for a room the night before the strategic planning meeting kicks off. So I was going to bring to the board a recommendation that we increase the lodging and facility rental maybe 200 to 300 to account for those two. Maybe a little more. Maybe that's not enough, but something.
If we do that increase, sorry, I'm sometimes hard to follow on the spreadsheet. If we do that increase, are we then going in the negative?
No. So we have a
Okay.
projected surplus of about
Oh, okay.
1,400 right now. Yep.
Okay.
I guess my other question would be, I mean, I know these two line items are specific for just the board meetings and the strategic planning session. What about, I'm just going off of this conference this year, being a Whitefish. I mean, that's quite a hike for me. Would I go down to that member support thing to request funds for that then? Is that how we were looking at that?
That's a good question, Mike. I mean, I guess I'd defer to those that have been involved with MAGIP a little longer than I have on whether a board member traveling would be separate if it's to the conference or whether that would be member
I
support.
mean, this would also fall in line with doing other conferences as well. I mean, are we supporting that with people as well? Like say Marls or MAP?
I think we should.
Yeah, it seems like that would be the same, like that would all be lumped into the same line item, right?
Yeah, I'm just kind of wondering where that is in the budget kind of thing.
Yeah. That's under board travel, right? I think it's under, wasn't there one called Board of Directors Travel or something?
Well, there's a parent category, board travel, and then we have that split into lodging, facility rental, and food. So I think it would probably go in lodging and facility rental. You know, that doesn't leave room for reimbursement of board like fuel or vehicle expenses unless we were to add another line item under board travel. But
And I'm not saying I'm going to be able to, I mean, I may be able to get my work to, cover for that, but I'm just thinking for like, for those who can't do that sometimes and, future as well. And, since we are expanding into other conferences and stuff, I think we do need to start supplying some funds to cover people. I mean, I was able to go to these fortunately enough, but I mean, I'm not gonna be able to go to the ones this year. For the most part, I'm positive I won't be able to get my work to cover for those, so.
yeah, I hear you, Mike. And I'm supportive of increasing that. Or is anyone opposed to underneath the board travel parent category adding, so under lodging and facility rental, adding basically a transportation, so slash transportation, and then maybe increasing this to 2,000 from 1,500?
I think that's a really good idea, and Mike brings up a really good point. His work might cover it now, but not everybody's work is able to support travel or lodging at conferences. I would be in favor of a $500 increase on that line item with the / transportation added to the category description.
The only thing that I would worry about is whether or not that would impact the insurance that we acquired in April. And I would have to go back and look at the document that we signed, but there was a specific exclusion of people being covered under the insurance for travel. And that was specifically because it's a volunteer organization and they wouldn't expect anybody to be reimbursed for that. And I could be kind of muddying the waters, but that would be a concern for me, that we should just check that to make sure that if we add a line item into our budget that covers travel expenses, that may be an additional liability to MAGIP for our insurance.
It's a fair point. I think it's one we could follow up on without, like, I don't see that needing to prevent us from, like, just adding that word transportation. You know, we're probably, if we are going to move forward with reimbursing board members for traveling to other conferences, strategic planning, and potentially GeoCon, we're probably going to need, you know, not to add another policy, but we're probably going to need some sort of policy in terms of, like, you have to turn in your receipts, you know, within a certain amount of time. The treasurer will then reimburse you. So my suggestion, Gail, would be that we absolutely do check our policy and confirm that that would be okay, but I don't think that should prevent us today from adding that word to the budget document and increasing to have a little buffer there.
One last thing too. I know I guess I'm jumping here, but the CD, is that put in there as we decided to put more money into it?
Yes. So, and Nick, jump in here if I misstep at all. But so we approved on June 17th, we approved $50,000 into a 6-month CD. And so we've updated the projected interest. So we used a 3.5% return on that 50,000 6-month CD for that line item. And then Nick's going to talk here later in the agenda about other investment vehicles.
Sorry, I'm jumping subjects there, but yeah, I was just concerned. Thank you.
Yeah, no worries.
Yeah, and I would echo what Mike was saying too. I've certainly have worked for an employer that didn't support everything that MAGIP did in terms of, you know, being able to go on work's dime. So there's been times where I've attended board meetings or attended the conference, or not necessarily attended the conference, but I think the strategic planning event, I've had to attend that via vacation as well. So there is times where not all of us are going to have the luxury of, oh, because I work for the county or the state, I go just because it falls under their mission. You know, it's kind of a heads or tails sort of thing. So thought I had my 2 cents, and then going to these conferences, representing MAGIP. I think it would be wise for us to think about that.
Okay, I'm hearing a lot of. Oh, sorry. Go ahead, Rob. Didn't mean to cut you off.
No, it's okay. I just want to chime in and say that I'm glad, you know, we were having this discussion because, you know, I'm a little of an oddity in the group, that I'm a member of a federal organization, and you know, unless you've been under a rock, you know that it's a strange situation these days, and for years now, travel hasn't been covered, or any sort of extracurricular activity has not been covered. And as a result, very few federal members to begin with. And we want to keep the organization open to those types of people. I think this is a really good move. So just want to say thanks for being open-minded and considering the board member travel for those who don't have travel covered.
Thank you, Rob. Okay, so we typically don't do a motion for every single line item increase, so I'm hearing a lot of support for adding transportation as to our kind of subcategory here, and then increasing to 2,000. Any like objections to that? Okay, Nick, do you have this open? Do you want to make those changes, or do you want me? I just don't want us both editing here.
If you're right there, then yeah, feel free to punch it in.
I'm on it.
Cool.
Yeah, and Jackson, I would just suggest calling it transportation / lodging, maybe in case it's somebody that needs help with lodging and not necessarily just the transportation or mileage.
Did you want to keep facility rental in that category too? Because it used to say transportation and facility rental.
Yeah, I think so. I probably should. Okay, so the only other one that I wanted to bring to the board's attention to potentially increase would be food. And we do have 1,200. We spent 1,100 last year. You might remember we had to pass an amended budget a couple times. So Gail, do we think, or sorry, not Gail, Michelle, do you know off the top of your head what we spent last year at the strategic planning meeting? Do you think 1,200 is going to be enough, or should we discuss increasing that one too?
Just go to McDonald's.
Yeah, I was gonna say, I feel like it was a lot last year because we went to that kind of fancy steakhouse. We did everything else on the cheap. So, I mean, it would be enough if we just do something not quite so fancy for the dinner.
Okay, I wasn't there for that, so that helps.
Yeah.
And it is increased slightly from even what we spent last year, so maybe we're okay on that, unless others have strong feelings. Okay, great. Well, so that still leaves us with a projected surplus of almost $900, so nearly a balanced budget and in the black. Thanks, everyone. I know we've had 2 really long discussions about this. Is there anything else preventing, any other discussion that needs to happen? Anyone have any burning thoughts they want to get out before we move to get our budget approved?
Yeah, I'm sorry. I have to bring this up because this is really concerning to me. I would like to talk more about the transportation, the addition to line item 63 for transportation. I absolutely support 100% the board members being able to attend the strategic planning event as well as the Big Sky GeoCon. I am concerned that there's no boundaries or buffers on that at all. I don't think we've talked about it enough. I just wonder if maybe we could leave that dollar amount in there, but there has to be some kind of a request for that. I mean, I could just see how this could just go really sideways and all of a sudden we're in a deficit because every member has to request money for transportation. I don't know. It just feels like it's very loose to me. And I don't disagree that people need it. I just don't think that we've put enough guardrails on it.
Hey, Gail, I think it's important to be cautious. So good move on that. I think potentially we could look at a model like what MLIAC or whatever its new incarnation is, what they have done. I remember being on that board and you know, as you attended, you got a little form to fill out for basically a mileage reimbursement kind of a thing.
That's a great idea. I do like that. I just feel like there needs to be some kind of guardrail on it. And if I'm being overly cautious, I mean, everybody on the board, please tell me. I just think that especially when you're adding something new to the budget that isn't, tried and, like in the case of increasing the fees, we know we need to increase the fees, right? But in this case, and honestly, Mike, I know that you've talked about it and advocated it for a couple of years, actually getting transportation and lodging paid for those situations where we're going to map our marls. I don't disagree with it fundamentally. I just do wish that we had different guardrails. Go
So
ahead,
yeah,
Mike.
Gail, again, I think it's a great idea, and you know, it could actually have multiple benefits. Like, we are a quantitative bunch, and we can use spreadsheets to manage our organization. So, for example, if we do this sort of standard, you know, GSA mileage rate for travel, and we know who's traveling and from where, we could actually figure out what the cost is to have meetings or events in certain places and things of that nature. Right? So, I mean, we could game this out very nicely if we wanted to, and if we use a simple reimbursement model.
Well,
If we took,
well, and I'll add one thing too. I don't think everyone will essentially request to pull money from this fund too, because like,
Right.
I mean, I think most of us are in situations where our employers will be gladly to basically pull the weight of that mechanism. But I guess in situations, I'll just go back to Marls, for example, and with Mike, he's essentially having to pull money out of his own budget to essentially go to something that he's representing fully MAGIP for. He's not getting as much from the county perspective when he goes there. So
Yeah,
that's kind of different.
and I want to reiterate that we're not approving any sort of policy. Adding this word transportation to the budget is not obligating us as an organization to reimburse for miles or anything like that. So my recommendation would be that we take this and we do develop a policy, to Gail's point,
Absolutely.
that stipulates what the guardrails are, how board members are reimbursed, what types of events they can be reimbursed for, et cetera, et cetera. So I don't see any risk in adding this word to the budget spreadsheet, to be honest. Any other thoughts on either travel, or I'm going to risk my video again. If I cut out again, then I'll turn it off again. Any other thoughts on travel specifically, board travel, or any other budget line item? I'll zoom out a little bit. If not, I think we're in a position where we could move forward with a motion to approve the operating budget. Okay, hearing no further questions, I'd like to ask for a motion to approve the fiscal year 2026 general operating budget.
I'll move that we approve the fiscal year 2026 budget.
Thanks, Jeff.
I'll
Give me a
second it.
Thank you, Mike. All in favor, say aye.
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 All opposed, same sign. Hey, awesome. Motion is passed. Got the budget approved. Good stuff. Okay, and we're ahead of schedule. So, two wins.
Well, for that, I want to just, if we're going to set up this policy for the guardrails and stuff, which I approve as well, I think is a good idea. Who is going to do that?
I'd be happy to take the first stab at drafting a policy. I think there's a lot of, to Rob's point, this is not reinventing the wheel. I think a lot of nonprofits have a reimbursement policy. In fact, I've been a part of a board that had one, so I could probably find like a template. So I'm happy to take the first stab and bring it to the strategic planning retreat as a proposed policy that we could approve there.
Yeah,
I do like that.
yeah. Thank you, Jackson,
think
for
that's great.
suggesting that. And Eric, I was, if you are still on the land,
Make MGIC, Montana Geospatial Information Council.
okay, if you're still on that council, maybe, we could just simply lift that same form.
Yeah, I'll take a look and see if they have it. It's been a long time since we've had an in-person meeting, so.
Yeah, no kidding.
But should there be one in the near future, if nothing else, I could probably just have Aaron or who's the other person? One of them send it to us so we have a copy of what they use. So
Yeah, it shows you how long it's been since I was there. We had stone tablets that we chiseled our things into.
I don't know if it was that long.
I'm still reliable, man.
Yeah, I mean they go down with time, man. Unless you drop it and it breaks. So.
Right.
Yeah, they're built to last, aren't they? Yeah, great, Eric. If you can send it, you can just send it to the full board, or you can send it directly to me. That'd be great. Okay, so we're on to, so we already discussed obviously the impact of increasing the geocon registration and workshop rates. We've got our budget approved. The one other loose end in terms of finances from our June meeting was a discussion around how to strategically allocate our surplus revenue, not for fiscal year 2026, but our kind of rolling surplus revenue, our savings, essentially. And so Nick's done a little bit of research on some potential options. So Nick, I'll turn it over to you to give us an overview of that.
Yeah, I don't have a whole lot on that front. I've been to Wells Fargo too many times in the past couple months trying to sort through things and have been wanting to have a conversation with the banker about our options. I had a quick discussion with a banker yesterday, and he said that Wells Fargo, I know Rob brought up the money market fund as being a potential option, but they said that they don't offer that at the bank that we have now. And we don't have enough money sitting around to qualify for anything other than a CD, kind of in the range of what we're expecting. So I'm hoping to set up an appointment this week to get all that squared away. I've not locked that in yet, but we're working on it. So
What would be the money range to go to the next level, and what is the next level?
that is a good question. I'll ask that this week. He didn't give me a number, but I'll look into that.
I have an account with Wells Fargo, and they are not the most competitive in terms of their rates. So if we were going to double or increase the amount of money we're going to put towards something, I definitely wouldn't put it there.
Yeah, I mean, you're most likely looking towards the Empower, some sort of like financial places that offer those types of things.
So yeah, Nick, thank you for taking the steps towards that. Other than setting up a meeting, are there any limitations that we currently have, or do we need to approve it, or where are we at?
I think we voted in the last meeting for 50,000 going into a CD. So there might be some other documentation that I need to provide them. So I might have to reach out to a couple of you to get that squared away. But other than that, I think we're good to move on that.
Cool.
And I
Well,
think for the strategic planning session, I mean, I really liked, Rob, what you brought up at last year, which I don't think we've moved on, which is somewhat related to this in terms of like exploring the potential for establishing an endowment that could be used to fund, some of our educational goals, some of our other, things that tie into our mission. So, Nick, maybe this is a good topic for the strategic planning retreat in terms of what our options are at Wells Fargo. Other, maybe we need to look to another institution like we just discussed. It might be worth checking with just pinging the Montana Nonprofit Association because they have a lot of experience. I'm sure they get questions about this all the time about nonprofits looking to invest extra funds. So it might be worth an email to them too.
Cool.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Hey, Jackson, thanks for bringing that up. And it makes me think of an interesting way we could do this, right? And just give me like a minute or two to speak here. Look, that we are not obligated to give scholarships or awards or things like that of any particular dollar value, right? We can give any value that we can manage. To set something up in perpetuity, it takes a large amount up front, right? But let's say we take something like this 50,000, we put it in to a fund, and then we commit ourselves to taking, we could look at our budget currently, and I think we're probably close to about 10% of our budget going towards this educational benefit. So we take that 50,000, we put that in initially, and then every year we put in another 10% of our budget in that sort of growing bucket. And the revenue from that bucket is what supports our philanthropic endeavors. So that might be a way to take advantage of compounding, and it really at that point doesn't cost us any more than what it's costing us now, and we have something essentially running in the mill.
Yeah, I like the idea, Rob. Would you be willing? I didn't carve out a ton of time today for that discussion. Would you be willing to draft a proposal and put pen to paper that we could consider at the strategic planning retreat next month?
Sure. Yes, I would. And Nick, maybe you and I can stay in touch, and you could let me know what you find out with Wells Fargo, and we'll go from there.
Yeah, I think reaching out to the Montana Nonprofit Association would be a good first step, and just kind of center ourselves and see what's out there and what options we have. But yeah, that sounds good.
Cool. I will look forward to hearing from you. And Eric, I know that you have some personal history with this type of stuff as well, and maybe you and I can chat on the side as well and see what sounds reasonable. So thanks, guys.
Great. So I think that wraps up the kind of the financial items that I had on the agenda. Next up, I wanted to chat briefly about the strategic planning retreat coming up next month, September 9th and 10th. So you should have seen an email from Michelle. We do have a room block booked at Fairmount Hot Springs outside of Anaconda. So just for the one night, so we're planning a 2-day retreat, similar kind of timeline and similar setup as last year. Michelle and I, well, I'm working on the agenda, and I'll send that around probably week after next, so the week of the 18th. In the meantime, if there's anything that folks would like me to include, like we just discussed one item, exploring options for setting up some sort of endowment, investment opportunities. If there's anything that you personally would like to see added to the agenda, you can voice those now, or if you want to think about it, you can also email those to me this week or next week so that I can get them in to the agenda before I send it around. And then the other thing that we need to do today is it would be good for reservation purposes if we can get kind of an RSVP. I know Jeff, I know you're maybe still unsure, or maybe you just need to say you can't make it and you're going to be attending virtually. But is there anyone else that knows they wouldn't be able to come? Michelle needs that information so that we can lock down the number of rooms. Okay, Eric, I see your message. Thank you. Do you see that, Michelle? Eric said he
Yeah,
won't be able to attend.
I did see that. And then I would just say if, I think, Mike, you're coming from the furthest away. If you feel like you needed a room on the 8th, let me know that too.
I will. At this time, I would say no, but oh well,
Okay.
yeah, Christ, yeah, no, actually. Yeah, let me get back to you.
Okay, that sounds good. Thank you.
Yeah, and probably count me out for staying overnight. I'm not entirely sure of my plans yet, so but
Okay.
there's a chance I will be able to show up for one of the days.
Yeah, thanks, Jeff. Yeah, and I don't imagine, I mean, Michelle, if we lock down the number of rooms now and someone, say Jeff or well, Eric said he's out for sure, but if someone did want to, like, if we needed to add someone, I bet we could probably get a room. It doesn't seem like it'd be a crazy busy time, but
Yeah, I'm sure we could.
yeah. Michelle, is there anything else logistics wise we need to cover right now before the agenda gets sent?
I don't think so. Just, I guess I would just say if any of you have any, I know we have a couple new people on the board. So if anybody has any dietary restrictions or something, just please let me know that too. Cause I do order, I think we're ordering luncheon one day and some snacks type stuff. So yeah, just email me directly if you have any dietary restrictions.
Oh, there was one thing I was going to bring up for discussion. Getting back to the dinner idea, sounds like we're not going to go to the nicest steakhouse in the area, which is obviously fine. But I wanted to get a pulse on if folks were more inclined to stay at the resort to eat dinner. So that would be dinner the night of the 9th. So our options would be, there is a restaurant there. Michelle said it's somewhat expensive. Our options would be to eat at that restaurant, to potentially like order something in, or to go into Anaconda and find somewhere to eat dinner. So I'll just throw that to the group and see if we have a strong preference. one way or the other.
Anaconda has some good dinner spots. I can't remember the name of it. There's two ones that are like an Italian place, and then another one that's more steakhousey.
Yeah, Donovan's. Donovan's
Yeah.
is good. It's a real classic kind of steakhouse.
Remember our budget.
No, it's not I don't think it's as expensive as the spot we went to last year, from what I'm remembering, but we could look at prices. I'm gonna look this up really quick.
Are you thinking of Barclay? Are you thinking?
Yeah.
Well, Barclays was where we went.
Yeah, there's Barclays and Donovan's, and the brewery's good too.
Yeah, the Italian restaurant is amazing. It's not very big and it is kind of spendy, but it's really, really good.
Obella, is that the name of it? I think
Yeah.
so.
Mhm.
Yeah, Obella's really good. Maybe we should go there. And then there is Donovan's and Barclay are two separate things.
And I hear the Owl Bar is really good.
I like whatever bar that is that has that huge old
Now
smelter
the Owl Bar's a little
thing.
too soon there, Robert.
A little too
I was
soon.
gonna say, a little soon there.
It
As
may
long as
still
you're
have
not there in the
police tape
morning.
around it.
You know.
I love Anaconda.
Okay, well, I think that was overwhelming. Sounds like people are in favor. I like Anaconda too. Okay, so we'll plan to go into town that night. We'll have to, as we get closer, we'll have to think about carpooling, because it is a short drive from the resort, but I'm sure we can figure that out as we get closer. Yeah, I think that's all for now. Yeah, you'll see the agenda from me. I'm planning to send it out again, not next week, but the following week. So that'll give plenty of time if there's any last minute things you want to add, any adjustments to be made. So look for it the week of the 18th. And Michelle and I will communicate additional details on logistics as we get towards the end of the month here. Okay, we're well ahead of schedule, which is awesome. We're now going to move on to other board business. So I had 20 minutes set aside, but because we are ahead of schedule, if there are other discussion items, I think we can have a little bit more time. So I'll start with an MGAC update. I know, Eric, you mentioned that I think there's been maybe a gap between meetings here. Is there anything to report on the MGAC front?
Nope, I don't have anything new. Our July 10th meeting had been canceled, so our next one, you have it on your agenda already, is set for September 25th. And I see that's on your calendar right there. So that's our next council meeting. You should have seen, I think the email came out last week, maybe. It looks like they reopened. Yeah, last week they reopened the feedback window for the information plan. So please take up, oh, it looks like there's something else. Yeah, there's that information that came out from Megan. So regarding the land plan and some other things. But yeah, that's where things are. We'll know more in September when we have our meeting in Helena.
Yeah, and thank you, Megan, for sharing that. I just pulled that up, but the link is in the chat. It's also been sent around in an email, like Eric said. So just highly encourage folks on this board to review the plan and comment. It's obviously very relevant to our work. So any questions for Eric? Okay. Thanks again, Eric. So yeah, any new business, other discussion topics? Mike, I saw an email from you. Maybe we want to start with that, and then we can move on to anything else.
Sure. Yeah, I actually have, well, the one that Lauren brought up too with the request for assistance, I thought would be something that we should talk about quickly as well. But the one I brought up was the MAP conference, which is in October. I know we had talked about doing a little bit more with a presentation instead of just doing a booth. Nobody's ever, I mean, I'm getting the emails from MAP about it, but nobody has offered anything. I don't have anything I would talk about. I haven't set up anything anyway. Did we still want to do that? I think we need to come up with something relatively quick. I mean, they already have a preliminary schedule out. Or we could just stick with the booth for this year. I was just wondering where everybody was on this. I thought we were on the premise of actually wanting to do a presentation. Nobody?
Yeah, I don't
Okay,
really
well,
know what we would present on, I guess.
I agree. I mean, I like the idea of us presenting maybe something. Yeah, you're right. I don't either.
Yeah.
Um,
I could see us though, like if I just don't know. They may be full though. I had taken a look at the agenda just because State Library, we do have something on there. We're doing a workshop again. But you know, we can essentially just talk about who we are, you know, what sort of things we support, you know, talk about our, you know, our membership support and our scholarships. So it would just be more of a forum to talk about who we are and what we do. That's the way I see it.
Yeah, this is a good discussion. It kind of, I think we talked about this when we were developing the notion, like what are we getting out of this? I mean, and Helen, you were a big advocate for having partnerships with other organizations and that kind of stuff. And I think we did spend some time talking about what it is how does the membership benefit by us sending a representative to these other conferences? So I think that's still a question we probably should internally answer and come clear on. And Jeff, you make a good point of, you know, we could have a sort of a format that we present. You know, this is who we are, is how many members we have, or members in these locations, it's what they do. We have these programs, we do, you know, philanthropy, we do meetups, some kind of thing like that, right? Our membership, we could then say that our memberships benefit by us kind of spreading the word this way. Potentially, we could open an invitation to our meetups. Potentially, we could get invited to other meetups, that kind of thing. And we could report back on that to the memberships during our member meeting at the conference and say, we did these things, we had these interactions, so on and so forth. So, right, Mike, thanks for bringing it up. I think it's been sort of this lingering thing, and we could potentially formalize that.
Yeah, I'm glad you brought it up, Mike and Rob. Also, thank you for chiming in. There are probably a lot of kind of varied benefits, I think, to building some of these partnerships with other organizations and expanding our reach of, you know, the people who know about what our organization does and the value that we bring to GIS, geospatial practitioners across the state. You know, it's kind of expanding into adjacent fields with surveying and planning and these other organizations where, you know, it feels like there's a mutual benefit to exposing our members to some of the content at their conferences, being there to support their conferences, but also introducing ourselves as, you know, the professional GIS organization in Montana. So it would be awesome if we had some kind of canned sort of talk we could come up with that is, you know, just like hey, let's introduce ourselves as an organization, as, you know, a participant of this greater community in Montana, and, you know, welcoming any new members, or like you said, Rob, inviting people to meetups. I think the MAPS is coming up pretty soon here in October. I'm not sure if they would like have a slot for us, but almost in the same way that, you know, our exhibitors maybe at our conference are able to just kind of, I don't know that they all have time to talk, but we recognize exhibitors and things of that nature, almost introducing ourselves at these other conferences of, hey, here's the community and what our GIS, you know, practitioners are doing across the state, and come join us and come learn. And I would love it if that could happen. I'm like, I don't know if we'll have a presentation or something we can do by October, but it's a really good point, Rob.
Yeah.
And Mike, thank you.
I'm starting to kind of get a heavy feeling that like we maybe will not be prepared to do like have a nice presentation and a person to do it, right? But I'm also thinking about some tangible things to come out of something like this. Like, for example, increasing the size of our distribution list, right? So first step, like when I think of the word partnership, I think that we're actually doing something together, right? Just showing up isn't actually doing something together, right? But getting in the door, being like, hey, can we access your distribution list? And we'll share our distribution list with you, right? So that then grows our influence as we just send out information, potentially with social media. Second, you know, I'm thinking, you know, what do we actually do, you know, statewide? And I think reviewing and supporting or refuting legislation is something that we've been doing lately. And as a partnership concept with these other organizations, you know, we could have a more powerful voice if we have more members, you know, or more ability to respond with more people to that type of thing. Maybe that's something we could bring up in this membership format, right? And that'd be a tangible thing. You know, we used to have 200 lines on this list. Now we have 400, 600, 800. Just thinking out loud.
I think it's great to think about those tangibles. Way to bring us to reality, Rob, because that's true. Let's make you know, capturing the benefits and sharing distribution lists. I wonder if we could set up like a QR code or something at a booth and, you know, scan the QR code and it automatically signs you up for the MAGIP listserv or something along those lines. I'm pretty sure there's ways to do that. Curtis will know how. He always knows the answer. For me anyways. Something like that to engage more people in our communications. That might be a way to, you know, add a few, if not members, people that start to get some information from our organization.
I love that idea of the QR code. It makes me wonder, do we have a poster? Right? Like,
Probably not.
Maybe that's
Well,
the first thing.
we do have a fax sheet that goes along with the booth. You know, people come by and it gives information about about MAGIP itself and everything. So we do have a fact sheet.
Yeah, maybe we could use that fact sheet or like I say, create a poster or something that would have that QR code. So you got this thing posted. People are like, oh, wow, I think that's interesting. Boom, sign up.
Yeah. I like that idea too, Rob.
I just asked Curtis about the QR code. So we'll see what he says.
Yeah, all really good ideas. Maybe it popped in my head, maybe even like co-sponsored meetups, you know, like a MAGIP co-sponsored meetup, you know, there might be some opportunities there. So,
well, yeah, right. Like I don't know exactly how we advertise our meetups, but if these people can get added to that list, you know, eventually others will start showing up.
Maybe another way to approach this too would be to have our board members meet with some of their board members. So I know that at the city, we have people that are on the board for MAP right now. And it made it easier this last year to be able to talk about this relationship because of knowing that those people were on the board. But that isn't anything that we've ever done in a really, I want to say, systematic way. I think it would be really helpful for us to have members of our board reach out to members of their board so that we're coordinating it together. Because if we're having this conversation, they're probably having the same conversations. I think the idea of sharing the distribution list or the member list, I think that would be great so that we could build our members as well as build in their members. I will say the city of Bozeman is going to be doing a presentation at MAP this year, but I think I talked with you, Mike, about this, that it's very specific to work that HDR and Andrew Stickney, who you all know, actually did for the city as a part of community development. So I will be there. But I also have a lot of travel that's happening in the next 2 months and wasn't really ready to commit that kind of time. I'm not sure how much time we need for somebody to be there, but I would also like to say that last year when we started having these conversations about building these relationships, we still hadn't come up with the who of would be doing the representing at these organizations, right? So if somebody's going to be going to the conference, we had talked about, is it the president? Is it the past president, right? Is it anybody who's going to be there because geographically it's close to them? Those are still things that we didn't really land on anything last year because it just was still very new, the idea of building these relationships.
Yeah, and
Right,
I certainly have time to sit at a booth because I believe the state library we're not sponsoring this year. And of course it's in Helena, so it makes sense. So I certainly will be available if no one else wants to attend. But
And this
yeah,
is
and
kind
that
of,
brings,
oh.
I'm sorry, go ahead. So this actually brings up something else that we talked about, and that was the idea of the sponsorship, like us having a table at MAP or Marls. Is it Marl or Marls with an
Marls,
S?
yeah, with an S. Yeah.
Marls with an S. Um, and then who they would send over. And I feel like this needs to be a little bit more formalized. Maybe one person who's reaching out to each of those organizations. So, I mean, we're going to start planning our agenda. Our conference planning starts very soon after the strategic planning event. And if MAP is in October, it doesn't really align with what our scheduling is. But it does give us enough time, even with new board members, to be prepared to communicate with their board member and to be on their agenda as well. It just has to be more formal, I think, for us on our end. Who's going to be that person? Is that something that falls on, one of the board members' responsibilities?
Yeah, thanks, Gail. The only thing I was going to add is it's kind of terrible timing. I mean, we just passed the budget, but just note that we don't have funds set aside for advertising, for printing a poster. Not to say we couldn't amend the budget and try to move money around, but as of right now, we don't have funding really to support this. I don't think that should discourage us, but it's just something to note as we try to think about how to move forward with some of the partnership opportunities.
Yeah, good point. I think we bought a projector at some point in time. So hell, we don't have to print it. We just project it up on the wall.
There you go. We could bring back those stone tablets. You got a few of those laying around, don't
you? Yeah. I think it's laying on my digitizing tablet.
Yeah, that's right. Any more discussion on that front? I mean, I'm not trying to kick the can down the road, but it seems like there's a lot there, and I think the strategic planning retreat is a opportunity to move this forward. I think.
That was going to be my suggestion, is that we spend more time during the strategic planning event to talk about this a little bit more.
Yep, agreed. Okay, if there's nothing else on that front, Mike, did you say you had another item?
Oh yeah, this is more of Lauren's request for assistance. She had well, Lauren, you can explain a little bit better about the webhook thing. But it sounds like she finally got stuff to go through, and she already had the meeting back in June, I believe. I'll let Lauren
July.
fill us in on that.
Yeah, so we had a meetup in Bozeman July 8th, I believe it was. And I had submitted request for assistance and then the request for reimbursement. And there was an issue with the webhooks that we had set up through make.com. And I actually got that all sorted out this morning. So everyone should have received a couple emails from me. Luckily, I was the only person that had submitted any sort of request. So we didn't miss any others because I know that there's like a 5-day turnaround time on those. But I have been in discussion behind the scenes with Mike and with Nick on getting that reimbursement and logistics behind all of that. So I think I'm pretty much good to go there. It was a great meetup. We had, I think it was 8 people in attendance. Um, Robert Locke, who is one of the presidents at Eagle View, showed up and bought us all pizza, which was nice.
Wow,
And
nice.
yeah, we had a nice little chat with him, and yeah, it was great just to connect with local GIS professionals. And I'm really glad that it worked out to get organized and hope that we can do more of that in the future.
It was really great, Lauren. Thank you so much for organizing it. On the topic of the webhooks, Lauren, if, because I think Hillary did, set those up for us previously, if you've now figured out the workflow for that, if we can make a little guidance for our future selves to be able to keep that updated or modified, or, like a little mini how-to on the webhooks,
Yeah,
that might be really helpful for either us or whoever is the future us.
100%. Yeah, the guidance that was given was pretty light. So I struggled through it this morning, but I do, yeah, if anyone else on this call has experience with webhooks or knows like how I could obtain client ID and secret information, that would be really helpful in just figuring out the logistics behind the scenes. And if we ever need to make new ones, excuse me, I'm not exactly sure where that information comes from. So
Okay.
just a little side.
Hillary definitely set those up for us on there, and I'm sure she'd be happy to get on the phone and explain that a little bit more if that would be helpful. She's so nice. I bet she would. I could send an email just to you and her, and maybe then we could at least put it on her radar, like, help.
Yeah, I'm comfortable just reaching out directly to her too.
Okay, cool.
Yeah.
You have her email and everything?
I do, yes.
Okay, good stuff.
Yep.
So Jackson, not to step on your toes or anything, I just wanted to bring up the fact that we should probably make it official that we're approving this, even though it's happened already. But we are gonna be getting some funds out, and now that we have the documentation in place, I think we need the board just to approve that we're, dishing out the reimbursement funds.
Yeah, I'm happy to do that. I mean, we did hold the email vote, right? Or was that just authorizing the
Or,
meeting?
do we have the email? Okay, then sorry. Yeah, you're right. I forgot about that.
We had
No,
the email vote, but I also thought that last year that we said it didn't require a board vote if it was less than $200 for a reimbursement request, right? Is that?
Yeah, you're correct, Helen, but I mean, I think this is probably a slippery slope because this kind of falls outside of that 5-day notice, because I think it was beyond that. No one was aware that Lauren was even requesting these funds. So that's kind of the hole that we're kind of stuck in is
Okay.
we were
Got
not,
it.
and had Lauren not been the only one, we would have had, several requests, basically gone unnoticed because of this as well. So.
Right. So Jeff, in your mind, do you think the email vote was good enough?
I think so, but probably just need to make note of it in the meeting minutes for this because I think that's what we've done in the past, that we've held online votes for. We just made sure to note it in the next meeting minutes. Yeah, that essentially we made a decision outside of the meeting.
Yeah, good call. So Lauren, if you can throw that into the meeting minutes there, then we should be good to go then.
And so Jeff, help me. I think you have the most or some of the most institutional knowledge here. So help me on the normal process here. So someone requests it, there's a 5-day window, but there's no formal vote that needs to happen to approve that. And if that 5 days lapses, it's automatically approved.
If it's for the meetups, under that a specific amount. But if no one essentially makes a comment, or probably like more of a questioning comment, then it essentially is automated to go through. The Mike remembers this. The pickle that we ran into a few years ago was around GIS Day, where we had all these like different aligning requests come in, and we didn't necessarily have time to address them at the next meeting, or it kind of fell in between two different meetings, and we wanted to make sure that those funds were made available for those regions. So we essentially kind of set up like different online votes, but it just kind of got all chaotic because it was for the same thing, but it was from a different, but they were separate requests. So that's this is kind of an automated way of like, streamlining that process.
Got it. I think I'm following. And do we have any sort of process in place for prioritizing? I mean, we have a limited budget for these things, and I know this is not
I think
typical,
once the funds are out, they're out.
yeah, just first come, first serve. Okay.
Yeah, right.
Okay. Okay, thank you. I just wasn't sure how it worked. So, yeah, Lauren, if we can just note that it was approved by email vote and the funds are set for reimbursement. I think we're good.
And then if we're ready to move on from that, I do have one comment. So Michelle and I are going to be going up to Great Falls tomorrow to visit with the Heritage Inn in regards to the 2027 potential conference location. So just wanted to make you all aware of that is set for tomorrow. So
Are we agreeing on Great Falls being the next one already, or?
No, I mean we'll come back to you. We'll come back to you guys with a proposal or a contract. But I mean, yeah, I mean, I think we've essentially, that's the process that we've gone through before. I don't think the board necessarily needs to completely weigh in on where to have it every year. But that's up to you guys. I really think it's kind of comes down to either Great Falls or Butte. But it kind of can be just at the discretionary of the conference planning committee or conference liaison.
Yeah.
Might be kind of fun to democratize it a little bit and at GeoCon have like a way that people can vote, and maybe there's like a rule where if it's been held there in the last 3 years, it can't be held again or something, so that we're not just going back to Bozeman and Missoula every other year. But I don't know, it might be kind of fun to have people pick on a map.
Yeah, that is true. It may just turn into a popularity contest of wherever anybody wants to go,
yeah, but I think
Missoulas or the thing I think of for Great Falls, they're the only location that we rotate around that has not had one for the Big Sky GeoCon. So that's why I'm kind of think of it as essentially kind of their turn or their fair chance at hosting it next. So, I mean, I think we kind of have a informal rotation that we sometimes can bounce around. It just depends. But that's just typically how I've seen it done in the past. So. But I would be certainly open, and if we wanted to have this discussion of strategic planning, I know other boards have talked about centralizing it or having a, essentially 3 locations and rotate it, kind of geographically in the middle of the state. Would that benefit the organization or not? I don't know if it would, but might be an interesting discussion. There's a few of you that have not had it.
It might be interesting to put that on the member survey for the conferences. Like, is there a benefit to going? Look, when we go to a conference, 90% of the time we're in like a couple of rooms, right? Talking to each other.
Yeah.
And we could do that anywhere. Like, so do people really value going to different locations, or is the fact that we're just together in a spot more important? Right. So I wonder, I mean, it could, for some people, it's easier to go to Helena. Right. But if they're in Kalispell, going to Helena is one thing, but then having to go to Billings, they're like, well, I'm not going to go this year. It's too far. Anyway, just a question.
Yeah.
To ask, and we can toss that idea around all the time, but it'd be interesting to hear from the people who are coming what their values are.
Yeah, that's a good point, Rob, because I think all of us on the board, we have our own opinions about this, and some of them are colliding opinions on it. But yeah, it'd be interesting to see what the majority of the membership thinks, you know.
I love the idea of asking our members for that feedback, and I'm literally just wrote myself a note to add that to the member satisfaction survey.
You know, or we could just throw it. I mean, I don't know what the return is on that membership satisfaction. Do you know how many results we typically get, Helen?
I can look at what we got for last year's, but it was not a lot for a while, and then we got quite a bit more towards the tail end. So let me get back to you in 1 minute.
Because we also could throw it at the end of the survey for the conference as well. We typically, I mean, I would suspect that we would get more responses, at kind of a post conference rate.
We could certainly have it in both places.
Yeah, that's true.
Couldn't we even just send out a survey 1, 2, 3 poll right now to figure out where people want to go in 2027? I mean, I guess the reason that I'm interested in knowing sooner than later is because when we booked Grouse Mountain Lodge, we did it almost 2 years in advance, just so that we could get it during the time that we
Yeah.
wanted to get it scheduled.
Gail,
Yeah,
it's
and
too late for 2027. Like honestly, like we're talking with the hotel, they literally have 1 week. It's the weekend that we want, but they have 1 week available, and I think you're going to find that with most places where they have
and that's
1
in
week available.
Great Falls.
Yes.
Is that Great Falls?
Yeah, they have so many returning conferences, and because that's really the only hotel facility that can do those sorts of conferences, they literally just have like repeat ones that come back in the spring is a pretty, there's a large number of conferences or gatherings that happen every single April or every single May. So
Yeah, I guess I just feel like regionally, Grouse Mountain Lodge is somewhat close to Great Falls, isn't it? It just feels like, well, it wasn't in Great Falls, it was in the region. Wouldn't it make better sense to move it away from there next for
are you talking
2027?
about Kalispell? No, Great Falls is in the middle of the state. Kalispell is more like northwest.
Wow.
Yeah.
Okay.
Great
My
Falls is
geography
not
is
in the middle of the state.
clearly bad.
Lord.
Well, okay.
It's like
You
more
have-
north
you have an
central.
idea of what Montana looks like.
Okay,
Jeff,
where
I
is it?
swear.
Where is it at? It's
Oh.
kind of more like maybe north central, right?
I would say
I
more,
mean,
well,
if we
kind
were
of,
to
but
look, if we were
western
to look
side
at
of
the,
north central.
if we were
It's
to
still
look
on-
at
Didn't mean to
Montana
start
tourism,
this.
Montana tourism, papers, Great Falls is like the Golden Triangle, and Whitefish is like, the Glacier Country. So they're in different units.
Yeah, Moccasin, Montana is in the middle of the state, but
Yeah,
anyways.
Lewistown is, yeah. I mean, but
Yeah.
in terms of like where we actually go, Great Falls is probably the most central.
Yeah,
Great Falls
sure.
or Helena. I mean, it's kind of probably interchangeable. But
Yeah.
Helena's probably nowhere near the middle of the state either.
No.
Yeah.
No.
All right, I'm going to cut this off if that's okay with everyone. I do have I
Yes.
do have a 4 o'clock that I'm going to try to make. So yeah, just quick calendar review. Obviously, strategic planning 9th and 10th of September. Next MGAC, Eric went over that, September 25th. MAGIP local government special interest group is the 21st. Those are all linked in our agenda if you're wanting to attend one of those. And then we have the some of the conferences coming up that are a little bit further out. So if there's no other burning business or anything I forgot, we'll adjourn. Could I get a motion to adjourn?
I'll make a motion to adjourn.
Thank you, Helen. Second.
Second that.
Perfect. All in favor, say aye.
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 Aye. Okay. All opposed, same sign. Thanks, everyone. Appreciate your time. See you all in Anaconda.
Thank you.
See y'all.
Thanks, everyone.
Bye.
Yeah,
Bye.
thank you.
Yep.